Thank you for allowing me to speak to you guys today. My name is Mark Headley, and I'm here to tell you about a business enterprise. I'm not going to be talking about any religious matters whatsoever. I'm going to be talking to you about an organization that I worked for. I worked there for 15 years, and even after working there for 15 years, not once was I told of the core religious or philosophy basics that they believed in the entire 15 years that I worked there. I worked at the international headquarters of Scientology from 1990 until 2005. And it's in the middle of the desert in California, and it's basically its own city, the city of Gilman Hot Springs, California. The only residents of Gilman Hot Springs are the employees of the international base. Bruce did touch on some of these points, but like he said, we got up around 7:30, 7 o'clock every morning. We worked till about midnight. That was the basic schedule. That was what was required of you, no matter what. Most of the time, we would stay up till 1 or 2 or 3 a.m. and then and oftentimes we would have to stay up all night long, at least 1 or 2 days a week. Sometimes the entire week we'd have to stay up. We'd have to pull all-nighters the entire week in order to get something done. Many times when David Miscavige was there at the property, he would demand that certain things got done, and the entire property was not allowed to sleep until those things were done. So you would have hundreds of people staying up all night, every night. Sometimes it would be arranged that if we were able to take an hour or two nap, that we would be allowed to go down to where the buses were and sleep in a bus for an hour if we could arrange it, if we could have somebody cover what we were doing for that amount of time so that we could get an hour's sleep.
How would you like to turn on your radio tomorrow morning and hear
Mondo Diablo? I'm finally reading a real book. This one is called Blown for Good by Mark Headley. This comes from the site blownforgood.com. Mark worked at Scientology's secret desert compound, which houses all Scientology management for 15 years. The 500-acre property is located deep in the California desert. The local townspeople were told lectures and films were made there. But is that all that was happening? It is the location of a multi-million-dollar home for L. Ron Hubbard, built 2 decades after his death. It is the home of Scientology's current leader, David Miscavige. So, what really happens at the INT base? Are the stories on the internet true? How does Scientology conduct management of its day-to-day operations? Could stories of armed guards, weapons, staff beatings, and razor wire fences be true? If so, how could a facility like this exist in modern-day America? Hundreds of staff tried to escape over the years. Some succeeded, but were never seen or heard of again. Most failed. Why were people kept here? What really went on at the headquarters of Scientology? This is the story of what happened behind the Iron Curtain of Scientology.
Trust God in the dark. 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 When burdens are pressing and sorrows distressing, there's someone who loves you and cares. When life becomes weary and days are so dreary, your darkness can change into song. Trust God in the dark, you need never despair. Trust God in the dark, every heartache He'll share. Let come what may along life's way, and trust God in the dark. When life is confusing, the fight you are losing, you wonder to whom you should go. When grief plants in secret her thorn in your pathway, rejected, to whom should you go? Trust God in the dark, you need never despair. Trust God in the dark, every heartache He'll share. Let come what may along life's way, and trust God in the darkest hour. Yes, trust God in the dark. Trust God in the dark.
Hello, America. This is Daffy Duck. I may be daffy, but I'm not crazy. I'm smart enough to know that hard drugs like heroin and downers are a bum.
If people didn't perform the work that was required of them There was no limit of penalties that could be handed out: verbal abuse, attacks, violence. Staff members were not only physically assaulted by David Miscavige, but he himself encouraged others to assault other staff members. So if you weren't getting beat up by him, you were getting beat up by somebody that he was encouraging to beat you up. So it was a very violent environment. And even as of a few months ago, spokespersons for the Scientology organization admit that over 50 physical assaults actually occurred there at the international headquarters. They actually admit to it. They admit that David Miscavige had people thrown into pools. One of the holdovers, Hannah touched on this briefly, which is this practice that L. Ron Hubbard wrote, which was throwing people overboard. The Sea organization, because it originated and started at sea, they had this practice of throwing people overboard. Well, since we had long since moved from the sea and we were in the middle of the desert, the only way you could throw somebody overboard was to throw them in the swimming pool that existed at the property. And literally on one occasion, we had several hundred people were gotten up in the middle of the night and ordered to come in because David Miscavige wanted to speak with them. And one by one, we were thrown into the swimming pool in the middle of the night to be thrown overboard, because that's the only way they could do it in the desert. The Scientology organization has admitted that this actually did occur and that it did take place. I wrote a book, and in the book I detail many of these experiences. And when they heard some of these things were in the book, they flat out denied that they took place. And sure enough, now in the few recent months, they're now admitting slowly that yes, this took place, and yes, that took place, and they are admitting that these things actually do happen.
あなたの冷たい横顔
beyond the hills in Idaho. Yawning canyons greet the sun as it smiles above the trees in Idaho. To say another night is done. Warm summer winds toss the waving grain, beckons me back to my home again, to dream sweet memories of long ago. Beyond the hills in Idaho.
I worked there for 15 years, and in the 15 years of working over 100 hours a week, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, I was paid a total of $29,000 for the entire 15 years. That averages out to about 38 cents an hour, and that doesn't include staying up late till 3 or 4 in the morning or staying up all night. That's just if I went to midnight. When I left in 2005, the very first year that I was no longer in Scientology, I made more in that first year than I made in the entire 15 years of my Sea Org career. Someone did the math, and the amount of hours that I worked in 15 years was as if I was working a 9-to-5 job for 40 years in the real world. In 15 years. I'm not even 40 years old. And I've already worked 40 years of a 9-to-5 job, if you just count the amount of hours that I've worked for the Scientology organization. When you work for the Scientology organization, there's certain things that most people take for granted that Sea Org members are not allowed to have in any way, shape, or form. Bruce mentioned you're only allowed to read L. Ron Hubbard. Additionally, you're not allowed to have any contact with the outside world that it's unfiltered. Any mail that is coming into the international headquarters is opened by security personnel and read before you get it. Any of your outgoing mail, you are not allowed to seal an envelope. You have to write a letter and put it in an envelope and leave it open so that security personnel can read your mail, and if they deem it okay, then they will seal it and mail it for you.
There is a house in New Orleans. They call it the Rising Sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor girl. Oh Lord, if I had only listened to what my mother said, I'd be at home today. But being so young and foolish, my Lord. Now my mother is a tailor. She sewed those new blue jeans, and my sweetheart is a drunken lord. Jamestown and New Orleans. Now the only thing a drunken man he needs is a suitcase and a trunk, and the only time he's satisfied, oh Lord, is when he's gone home drunk. Somebody go get my baby sister. Tell her never to do what I have done. But that house in New Orleans, they call it the Rising Sun. Well, I'm going back to New Orleans. My race is almost run. Yes, I'm going back to spend the rest of my life beneath the rising sun.
Immigrants create far more businesses than native-born Americans over the last 20 years. Immigrants are more fertile, and they love families, and they have more intact families, and they bring a younger population. The one way that we can rebuild the demographic pyramid is to fix a broken immigration system to allow for people to come, to learn English, to play by our rules, to embrace our values, and to pursue their dreams in our country with a vengeance to create more opportunities for all of us. This is a conservative idea. And if we do this, we will rebuild our country in a way that will allow us to grow. If we don't do it, we will be in decline, because the productivity of this country is dependent upon young people that are equipped to be able to work hard.
Personal legal documents are locked up, passports, visas, driver's license, anything that would allow you to operate or exist in the outside world is kept by them for safekeeping. Women employees who become pregnant are coerced or forced to have abortions. Children are absolutely forbidden within the C organization. During the time that I worked there, my wife had 2 separate abortions, one of which I didn't even find out about until several months after it had happened. She was not allowed to consult with me or even tell me that she was pregnant. She had to have the abortion, and I found out literally, I think, 8 months after it had happened, because they were worried that I would attempt to leave or take my wife and leave with us. People aren't allowed to come and go as they please. There is razor wire fences that surround the entire compound at the international headquarters. They have motion sensors on the fences. They have ground microphones in the ground. And they have very high-powered security lights that surround the entire perimeter of the property.
I met a man in Montreal. He was young and French and tall. Kissed me once and kissed me twice. Think this place is paradise. His body was so tight, smelling good and looking right. With that accent, he's a 10. Found my French Canadian. Take me over the borderline where the night is so alive. Staring deep into his eyes. Oh, it feels so right. Oh, Canada, now I know what I've been missing. Oh, Canada, with your French kissing. Now let me get a French kiss. Put your lips up on my lips. And let me get a French kiss. Put your hands up on my hips. Let me get a French kiss. Can't wait to take another trip to get another French kiss. Oh, baby, let me get a French kiss. Oh, I put them on my plate. Ate them up like some poutine. Show me all the crazy clubs in the village party scene. He said, Monsieur Voulez-vous? I said, yes, sir, I shall do. He said, je m'appelle Francois. I said, chez toi ou chez moi. Take me over the borderline where the night is so alive. Staring deep into his eyes. Oh, it feels so right. Oh, Canada, now I know what I've been missing. Oh, Canada, with your French kissing. Now let me get a French kiss. Put your lips up on my lips. And let me get a French kiss. Put your hands up on my hips. Let me get a French kiss. Can't wait to take another trip to get another French kiss. Oh, baby, let me get a French kiss. You on St. Catherine and never wanted it to end. I felt like singing like Celine Dion. And no one even stopped and stared when I grabbed your juicy derriere. And baby, now I never wanna go home. Oh, Canada, now I know what I've been missing. Oh, Canada, with your French kissing. Now let me get a French kiss. Put your lips up on my lips. And let me get a French kiss. Put your hands up on my hips. Let me get a French kiss. Can't wait to take another trip to get another French kiss. Oh, baby, let me get a French kiss. That's right, baby, I'm talking to you. Don't nobody French kiss like a French Canadian man. I think they invented that stuff. Ooh, snap. Well, au revoir for now, baby. But you know, I'll be back.
This is my friend, Maurice Champion.
And this is my friend, Colleen Townsend Evans. When I was making the changeover from a career lady to one who has a career in her home, it seemed to me there were so many more demands in a home than there were when I was working. I'd been so beautifully protected in the rehearsal hall. I hadn't realized it. I thought I'd been working myself to death. But I remember I saw you at church one morning, and I said, I don't know how you do it. And I don't remember exactly what it was that you said, but
I don't remember either, Marge. It was probably something like, golly, we'd all be sunk without God. Not one of us could do it. It's just impossible.
That's what you said. And you also said something else about prayer.
Yes, that was about the time I began to go through this painful experience of trying to be honest with God in prayer. And it was probably something about this. Because there was a point in Bel Air when, the church was growing and our house was used 5 days a week and people were coming in and out of every door. And I had thought a lot about identifying with our people. And Lou and I had talked about going to the mission field. And we had decided that we would identify with the people. If we were in Africa, we would try to live as much like the people as they lived. So when things got a little bit sticky and too much in Bel Air, I found myself thinking, hey, Lord, wait a minute. Remember, I said that I'd identify in Africa. How about sending me a maid? All my neighbors have maids, and I really think I thought he was going to send me one. But he never did that. But he gave me something so much better in an attitude of just realizing that with him I could and without him I couldn't.
And so you must have called on him like every minute.
Like, help, Lord. Every day was a crisis. But he's always there right in the midst of those things, and that's the wonderful thing about this walk with God.
You know, it reminds me of the passage from Luke. Now as they went on their way, he entered a village, and a woman named Martha received him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she went to him and she said, the Lord, that you needed a maid, right?
Right.
But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you're anxious and troubled about many things. One thing is needful. Mary has chosen the good portion, which shall not be taken away from her.
That's it. An attitude and an ever-present Christ is something you have all the time. Maids come and go, right? This is what I hear.
And pressured times come and go, too.
During the 15 years that I worked there, I probably witnessed hundreds of people who either escaped or tried to escape or escaped and were recaptured. When people escape from the compound, they are literally hunted like animals. I witnessed on one occasion a gentleman who left in the middle of the night, and he ran into the nearby desert, and he was recovered by security personnel who were wearing night vision goggles. And they literally found him hiding in a hole in the ground and brought him back to the compound. People that leave there and successfully get away into a nearby town, they check the bus stations, they check the airports, they check the local hotels. They have, if you do happen to have a credit card or any sort of electronic financial means, they have that, they're monitoring that. So as soon as you make a purchase, they know exactly where you are. They have access to flight records because they have their own travel agent, which is a member of any airline that flies anywhere he's a member of, and he can pull up any flight information. He can find out what flight you're on, and they can have somebody there. They have people that work for the airlines, so even if they can't find it, they can have somebody at the airlines pull up the information.
What is this thing that lives inside of me? Like a plastic gun full of empty threads. It keeps me in the dark. Have you got one too? It pretends we are apart, not just one but two. Should we kill it off, cut off fast and deep, when it feels so wrong, ridiculous and cheap? Try to find something concrete. Have you got one too? Try to pin it down, it will flitter out of view, but it comes tumbling down, imploding on itself. Yes, it comes crashing down every time I sleep. Should we chase it off, put a matchstick to the hay? We could stage our own deaths and walk away. Alchemy, something new I can believe, 'cause I work around the clock and I'm always tired. Yes, I work around the clock and I'm always tired. Should we play along with its little game? Just believe there's rules, we could stay this way. But I work around the clock and I'm always tired. Tumbling down and floating on itself. Oh yes, it comes crashing down every time I sleep. It's gonna die. It's gonna die. It's gonna die.
Everybody's talking about it.
It's so totally overwhelming. I'm like so permanently overwhelmed.
Isn't it time you found out about it?
It is everything and it's nothing.
It's all-encompassing and it's all non-encompassing.
It is and it isn't. Tarboism is just great.
I'm a better person now. I was a horrible person before. I was a real shit.
6 months ago, I was in prison for arson, and then someone gave me a brochure. And now I'm a priest Monty at my local tabernacle.
It was so easy to join.
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 It's like my spiritual intelligence has been magnified like 1 billion, million, thousand times.
When Tarbu speaks to me, I listen. I mean, how can you not listen?
I learned how to speak to an octopus.
I learned how to speak to an octopus.
I learned how to speak to an octopus.
Before, I would have been like, why would I want to even speak to an octopus?
Okay, sure, there's the whole octopus thing, but that's not even like 1% of a percent of Tarvuism.
When you read the Tarvanti, you're suddenly like, why haven't I read this before? Why haven't I read the Tarvanti?
The first time I was given the Tarvanti, I read it in like 8 hours.
Prophecies of Amzam Mivaram, 2 days.
Oh, the prophecies? Like a day and a half.
Octopusology I read in 8 hours.
8 hours.
8 hours.
8 hours.
Octopusology I read in 8 hours, which is what they recommend.
It's so easy to join.
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 It's like so easy to join.
You just have to say Tarvu's prayer, and that's it, you're a Tarvuist.
There's religion, and there's Tarvuism. No contest.
So, are you ready to say Hebo to Tarvuism?
Hebo.
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 Hebo. Hebo.
Hebo. Hebo.
Hebo.
And like I said, this is not something that just happened a few times while I was there. This happened hundreds of times where people tried to escape and were hunted down. The security guards at the property are informed that if they see anyone who is trying to escape over the fence, they are to pull them, physically pull them off the fence and return them to the property. When I escaped in 2005, I actually managed to get away on a motorcycle. And as I was driving out from the compound, I was immediately being followed by a security SUV. The nearby town is about maybe 6 miles from the compound. And as I was driving down the highway to drive into the town, the security guards pulled next to me and told me that I needed to return. When I refused to turn around and come back to the compound, they ran me off the road in the security SUV. Literally, I crashed on the side of the road on my motorcycle. And somebody who was driving by witnessed this. An anonymous person called the police, and the only reason that I was able to escape was because the police escorted me into the nearby town. Even when I was being escorted by 2 separate police cars, they sent 2 more vehicles from the Scientology compound to follow the police and myself to find out where I was going. And the police had to pull over these people and threaten them with arrest in order for them to not follow me into the town and find out where I was trying to get to so that I could escape the town altogether and get away from there. I didn't have any money. I had no job to go to. I had no place to go to. I literally was escaping, and I would rather die homeless and starving than to stay at that property. I was willing to risk everything to leave because the threat of serious harm was so great for me to stay there. And I think Bruce said it, that every single one of us that was in the Sea organization had done the RPF except for me. And that's one of the things I left was they threatened me with the RPF, and I had already had I had already had so much happen to me, and I'd already thought of leaving so many times before that I knew that I would rather be dead than to be there.
O sinner, do not stray from the straight and narrow way, for the Lord is surely watching what you do. If you approach the devil's den, turn round, don't enter in, lest the hand of the Almighty fall on you. He'll fuck you up. Yes, God will fuck you up if you dare to disobey His stern command. He'll fuck you up. Don't you know He'll fuck you up? So you better do some praying while you can. Long ago a man named Lot had a wife he thought was hot, but she could not stop her black and sinful ways. You know it was her own damn fault when God turned that bitch to salt. That's the way He used to work back in those days. He fucked him up. He really fucked him up. When the people went and turned their backs on Him, He can fuck you up. No shit, He'll fuck you up, just like He fucked the people up back then. I used to have a friend named Ray who walked that evil way. He cursed and drank and broke his neighbor's fence. You know Ray was full aware that some sheep were over there, and he knew them in the biblical sense. God fucked him up. He went and fucked Ray up, went and paid him back for all his wicked sins. He fucked him up, fucked that boy completely up. Now he's married to a Presbyterian.
This juggernaut, this theta juggernaut, our own eternity.
Treasures of life. Drinking from the cup of knowledge, spiritual being.
Everything you want in life.
You're blown out.
You as a theta.
Unraveling the entire universe, as LRH did.
These secrets of the universe, more and more and more and more.
The universe is like shifting around.
Whoa.
The PC, ASC, timescale,
You blow down and blow down and
total
blow down.
Persistent FM.
My needle was floating on course.
Unbelievable.
The spiritual being, the third dynamic, and ground. Breakthrough, 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 breakthrough.
Zoom, 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 boom, zoom, 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 boom.
All the answers, matter, energy, space, and time, the ACCs.
The ACCs, LRH.
Oh, is that what I've been doing? Well, that's not too good. I better stop doing that. 14, 22, 38, 55.
Granting beingness.
When he audits you, I mean, he's auditing me.
I would get so exterior. Wow, now what do I do?
I left the nest universe for a second here.
Come from. I see my wins multiplied by 2 by 3.
I went clear.
Bing, 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 bing.
36 and 7.
Up the bridge, and here I am, New 48. The golden age of knowledge.
Every solid pillar of my bridge.
Fred Dayton.
The entire universe, a golden age of knowledge.
Feel so good about it. I'm gonna sing and I'm gonna shout it. You see, there's just no way to hide the way I feel down deep inside. It's the love of Jesus in me. He gave it to me when He cleansed me. Oh, I feel so good about it. I've been saved. Now, if you don't know God's love, I'm sure you wonder about the things we Christians do and say. But when He gets through life and sets the music ringing, you just got to tell the world about the way. Oh, I feel so good about it. I'm gonna sing and I'm gonna shout it. You see, there's just no way to hide the way I feel down deep inside. Jesus in me, He gave it to me when He cleansed me. Oh, I feel so good about it. I've been saved. If you know His love, you know the joy I'm feeling. You've been set free, so sing this happy song. Every day I walk with Him, He gets much sweeter. I'm so glad that in His family I belong. Oh, I feel so good about it. I'm going to sing and gonna shout it. You see, there's just no way to hide the way I feel down deep inside. It's the love of Jesus in me. He gave it to me when He cleansed me. Oh, I feel so good about it. I've been saved. Feel so good about it. I'm going to sing and I'm going to shout it. You see, there's just no way to hide the way I feel down deep inside. It's the love of Jesus in me. He gave it to me when He cleansed me. Oh, I feel so good about it. I've been saved. I've been saved. I've been saved.
Even after I escaped, the Scientology organization contacted every single one of my family and told them that I was a suppressive person and that they were never to speak to me ever again. When I left in 2005, before I could even tell my mother or my sister or my brother what had happened and what went down that prompted me to leave, they were already instructed never to speak to me. And I have not spoken to my mother, my sister, or my brother since the day I left Scientology in 2005. I have 2 young children. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And my mother has never seen them. She's never spoken to them. They have no grandmother because she was told by the Scientology organization that if she even talked to me, her future eternity and the future eternity of all mankind would be threatened if she were to talk to me, her only son, first son. My wife's parents, my wife left 2 weeks after I did. My wife's parents have never seen their grandchildren. They have no grandmother or grandfather because her parents as well were told never to speak to us ever again. After that, after not being being told that I'm never going to speak to my family again, the Scientology organization had the gall to send me a bill for $150,000. And they told me that if you ever want to speak to your family again, the first thing you have to do is pay us $150,000 for the on-the-job training that we provided you when you worked for us for 15 years. That was the very first thing they wanted. They wanted $150,000. And then they would give maybe, they even said it's possible that you might be able to speak to your family again. There's probably hundreds of Scientologists that you could talk to that have left, former members, former employees, that will tell you very similar stories. These are not stories that are particular to the United States. This is happening in every single country, every single city, every single place that the Scientology organization operates in. These same sort of abuses are occurring.
Hi friends, this is Coach Dave Dobbenmeyer at newswithviews.tv at newswithviews.com. And I got something that's been all over me for the last 3 or 4 days, and I just got to go ahead and kind of spill this one out. I got to ask you this question. Whatever happened to manhood? Whatever happened to manhood? You know, my wife and I, a couple weeks ago, we were spending the night in a hotel, and we were laying in there. There's not much to do in a hotel room except turn on the TV, and we don't watch that much TV. We turn on the old country western channel, whatever it was, and there was Bonanza. And I watched Bonanza and Haas Cartwright and Little Joe and Adam and Ben and even that little Chinese cook they had. I can't even remember his name. We watched that for about an hour, and all the fighting that was going on and all the shooting and all that stuff that was going on. But you know what was really apparent at the end of the show? My wife turned to me and she said something so profound. She says, "Boy, honey, they sure were men back then, weren't they?" Oh, I haven't been able to get away from that one. They sure were men back then. And I'm not talking about shooting, and I'm not talking about fighting, but it wasn't like this effeminized manhood that we see on TV today. 3 women and a child, or 3 men and a baby, whatever they call that kind of stuff, and the feminization of it, and the sissified men with their poofed up hair and their little tight jeans. Whatever happened to manhood? That's a question I want to ask you today. You remember the day when men stood up and spoke up and defended the weak amongst us? You remember that? You remember James Arness, Matt Dillon? He was a man's man. And there was one message that was always clear at the end of those movies or those TV. How about Clint Eastwood and Rawhide and The Lone Ranger? There was always a message at the end of those shows. Good wins. You always knew who was wearing the white hat and why they were wearing the white hat. Well, whatever happened to manhood? Where is it in America today? I look at all this filth that's going on around us, the denigration of the culture, the breakdown of our society, the breakdown of the family. Men won't even marry their women anymore. They live with them. They milk the cow for free. Men don't even have the decency to love and respect a woman enough to put a ring on her finger and marry her. We look around and we complain about gay marriage. We complain about all these things going on in America when really all we have to do is look in the mirror. It starts with you, Buster. It starts with me. Whatever happened to manhood? You stood up and you did what was right. You didn't lie. You didn't lie in your business dealings. You didn't go out on your wife. And you didn't watch porn. Whatever happened to manhood? Most of the problems we have in this nation, folks, is a problem with men. Oh, it's not with women. It's with, I know that the women's movement came along and the feminazis, as Rush calls them. I know they all came along, but they were only able to come along because the men withdrew and ran back in the closet and hid behind their wives' skirts. I used to get it all the time as a football coach. I always had the mommies call me, not the daddies, the mommies. They were the ones who wanted to call and talk football strategy and why their boy wasn't playing. I want to get on the phone and say, get your husband on the phone. Tell him to man up. Whatever happened to manhood, especially in the church? It's sissified, effeminate, wussified. You often tell anybody, say, well, Lord, we want to show the Lord to them. We want to shine the light of the Lord to them. Really? Well, then let's show a masculine Jesus. Let's show a masculine Jesus who was willing to stand up for truth and speak truth to power and flip over tables in the temple. America is dying, and America will go down the tubes if godly men don't stand up and fight. Whatever happened to manhood? This is Coach Dave Daubenmire at newswithviews.tv and newswithviews.com. Passing us on. Go men!
this occurs. A lot of people ask me, well, how can this happen anywhere? There's so many countries that have laws against this, or you can't make people do this, or you can't make people do that. One of the reasons is that people who leave the Scientology organization are still in fear of the Scientology organization, or the Scientology organization is now holding a family member or a relative or a friend, and that's why these people are in fear of speaking out, because the Scientology organization will declare them a suppressive person, and then they will never be able to speak to the rest of their family again. Another reason is even people that this has happened to do not report it to their local government or their local police, because even though they've already lost their family and they've lost everything else, they know that if they do that, then the Scientology organization will then intimidate them further. And that one thing is the one thing that people need to realize is going to perpetuate this activity. If the governments and the local police do not have reports from people, or people do not come forward and say what happened to them, the governments in the United States, in Europe, anywhere where this is happening, their hands are tied. They cannot do anything if people don't report or don't speak out and don't contact whoever their local government or their police organization is. That makes it so they can't do anything.
I'm a boy and you're a girl. Gee, baby, I like girls. Come on, darling, let's make love today. Now I like girls, you're a girl, and I like sweets. You're a honey, I like dreams. You're a dream, and I like you, I do. You like boys, I'm a boy. You like treats, I've got money. You like life, I'm a living just to be with you. Warm heart, beating, beating, warm lips, could be a meeting. Soft night, swiftly a fleeting, smiling moon above. I like you, don't you know it? You like me, won't you show it? We are young, darling, so it's time for making love. Just to be with you. Warm hearts, beating, beating, warm lips, could be a meeting. Soft night, swiftly fleeting, smiling moon above. I like you, don't you know it? You like me, well won't you show it, honey? We are young, darling, so it's time for making love, darling. Ooh, hey, I sure like girls.
I was made to have 2 abortions. One was at the age of 19 when I was working in Golden Era Productions in California. The second was when I was 21 years old, when I was working in Clearwater in Religious Technology Center. To give a bit of background history on that, the directives of the Sea Organization, originally, a Sea Org member could have children. It was allowed. In 1986, the directive became that you couldn't remain a Sea Org member if you were pregnant and planning to have a child. You would be sent to a lower organization, a non-Sea Org organization. There was 2 instances in the entire time that I was there where I saw women actually try and go against that. And in those cases, those women were on heavy labor, washing dishes day and night. The other one was digging ditches while pregnant. It was absolutely criminal and bleak. You know, being paid $46 a week, if that, makes birth control a financial burden, to put it mildly. I did not intend to get pregnant. I did. It was with my husband. You know, at the time that it happened, absolutely, I was completely and utterly devastated. I never in my wildest dreams would have gone through with that, and I will always regret that. Nonetheless, I didn't have a choice. If I had said, I'm not going to do this, I would have been separated from my husband. You know, the possibilities were endless. I knew I would have had serious punishments levied. I would have been on manual labor. I was concerned for what would happen to my child. So I did not have a choice. I was drilled on what to say to the Planned Parenthood center that I was taken to. I was told what questions I was going to be asked and what I was to tell them. Specifically, they ask you, are you sure about this? You know, I was told by the medical officer the specific questions I would be asked and what I was to say. And I had to pay for it myself. Had to borrow money from a friend, and that's what happened. The second time, I was sent down to Clearwater in March of 1996. Unbeknownst to me, I was already pregnant at the time that I went down there. After a few weeks of being there, I actually passed out, and I didn't even suspect that I was pregnant, but someone gave me a not allowed to talk to him. I was scared beyond belief. I mean, I was now working in Religious Technology Center. I had no idea what wrath and punishments would be levied on me if I even blinked the wrong way in dealing with this subject. The worst part to me was I couldn't even talk to Mark. I didn't get to discuss it with him until 7 months later when I next saw him. You know, that's not, again, that's, you know, this is a subject to me that it's just criminal to make someone go through with that. And my lawsuit specifically asks for an injunction that makes it illegal for them to require employees, female employees, to go through with abortions.
Church spokesman Tommy Davis said that no heavy labor or interrogation was ever assigned to a pregnant staff member. He said there is no truth to the allegation that Headley's abortions were forced or that she would face consequences if she continued her pregnancy. Sworn statements from former Sea Org members prove that pregnant couples are treated with understanding, he said. Davis said it is unfortunate that Headley now regrets her decision, but it was her decision.
Le temps est bon, le ciel est bleu. J'ai deux amis qui sont aussi mes amoureux. Le temps est bon, le ciel est bleu. Nous n'avons rien à faire, rien que d'être heureux. Mon cœur est grand, 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 comme le vent, et je suis douce comme l'eau. Et je suis tendre, 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 tendre pour mes amants. Je suis la fleur dans leur cerveau. Le temps est bon, le ciel est bleu. J'ai deux amis qui sont aussi amoureux. Le temps est bon, le ciel est bleu. Nous n'avons rien à faire, rien que d'être heureux. Les deux amants sont beaux comme les arbres fous. Les deux amants sont doux, doux, doux. Je suis à eux de l'âme jusqu'à la peau. Les nuits sont longues, les jours sont chauds. Je ne savais plus voir, je ne savais plus entendre, je ne savais plus. Voici que je regarde, que j'écoute et que je sais qui je suis. Je sais qui je suis. Le temps est bon, le ciel est bleu. J'ai deux amis qui sont aussi mes amoureux. Le temps est bon, le ciel est bleu. Nous n'avons rien à faire, rien que d'être heureux. Dam dam da dam, 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 dam dam da
One of the things that I've done is when I left and I saw some of the things that were happening to members of Scientology, I was only aware of what was happening to the employees. I never saw what was happening to the actual people that were practicing Scientology or in the organizations. And when I saw that these people were also being abused, I started posting and writing some of the stuff that had occurred at the international headquarters on the internet, and I eventually wrote a book detailing out these things that happened there. And then even after that, I decided that I would bring a lawsuit against the Scientology organization. Currently, my lawsuit was filed in January of 2009, and the lawsuit is saying that the Scientology organization is violating labor laws and is participating in human trafficking in the United States. And when we filed that lawsuit, we did not have one person who would come forward as a witness and testify, besides myself. I was the only person I was the only person, as far as I know, that's even ever filed a lawsuit against the Church of Scientology or the Scientology organization for labor abuse or human trafficking. Since I filed my suit, 3 more lawsuits have been filed against them now for the exact same thing, and additionally for coercing and forcing women to perform abortions, get abortions for having children within the C organization.
いつもやきもち焼きで困るそんなあの子に恋をしたのは俺さ知らないどうしてさ他の誰かとどこかおしゃべりしてたものでも食べてスタミナつけたなら愛し合おうよ好き好き焼き好き焼きもち焼き好き焼きもち好きあって朝まで愛し合って好きなあの子と今日は久しぶ ぶりだぜデートうまいもの食べ歩いてご機嫌なのさ渋谷原宿白金銀座赤坂青山神田上野浅草横浜もいいねいいね好き好き焼き好き寿司寿司寿司寿司天ぷらうなぎいいねしゃぶしゃぶしゃぶいいねいいね
女が、会話をする、これ別に恋の会話でなくてもいいんですけれどもその場合にやっぱり大事なのは、相手を気遣うことそしてなんかいい印象を与えるそれも自分が男性としてあるいは女性として相手の異性にいい印象を与えるような心遣いというものが欲しいこれを誤解しますとねなんか非常にキザなことを言えばいいと思うんですそうじゃない
好き好き焼き好き焼き焼き焼き豆腐白滝こんにゃく肉肉肉いいね好きなあの子と俺は日本に生まれたのさうまいものだけ食べて愛し合うのさ好き好き焼き好き焼き焼き焼き好き肉肉肉いいねいいねいいねいいねいいね寿司寿司寿司寿司サギサギサギトゥーミーそばそばそばそばいいねいいねいいねいいね
The actress Leah Remini, and the latest now on her dramatic break from the Church of Scientology. She filed a missing persons report on the wife of the church's leader, and now the Los Angeles Police Department is responding this morning. ABC's Dan Harris is here with much more on this story. Dan, good morning to you.
Hey, Josh, good morning. This is really a fast-moving story with lots of twists. First, ABC News learned that Leah Remini personally filed that missing persons report. Then, hours later, the LAPD told us that they had, in fact, closed the case. The actress Leah Remini, famous for her role in the CBS sitcom The King of Queens.
I took a leap of faith for you. You didn't take a leap of faith for me.
Taking her confrontation with the controversial Church of Scientology to a new level. Even before this latest bombshell, Remini had let it be known she's planning to write a tell-all memoir, and she was talking very publicly about her decision to leave the church, as seen here on Access Hollywood.
I'm good. I have my family. My real friends are behind me, and I think that says a lot.
But now this. ABC News confirming that Remini filed a missing persons report with the Los Angeles Police Department on the wife of the man who runs the Church of Scientology, David Miscavige.
Yes, we have an utter monopoly on workable solutions.
Shelly Miscavige, who we're told was friends with Leah Remini, shown together in this picture of the two of them from a Scientology gala in 2005, posted by the journalist and Scientology critic Tony Ortega, who broke this story. Shelly has not been seen publicly in many years, making her current whereabouts a source of feverish speculation among the church's many critics. Janet Reitman is the author of Inside Scientology.
She was his wife. She was his close advisor. She would have been an integral part in every aspect of his life. So her absence has been quite noticed by particularly people who would have been in the upper echelons of the church, the executives.
Hours after Leah Remini filed that missing persons report, the LAPD told ABC News, quote, the case is closed, and that the report that Shelly is missing is unfounded. Overnight, the church released a statement saying this ill-advised, ludicrous self-promotion and the media inquiries it generated caused an inexcusable distraction for the LAPD. The entire episode was nothing more than a publicity stunt for Ms. Remini. Janet Reitman argues the church must see Remini as a challenge.
Oh my God, of course they're worried about her. Leah Remini, I think, really, really believed in this, and so she feels quite betrayed.
As for Shelly Miscavige, the LAPD tells ABC News that she is alive. They say their detectives have met with her within the past 2 days. Interestingly, the LAPD says this is not the first time they've had a missing persons report filed on Shelly Miscavige. Fascinating story. Josh, back to you.
And nothing short of stunning. Thank you, Dan. We're going to bring in ABC's Chief Legal Affairs anchor, Dan Abrams, here with more. And Dan, you were just saying that after letting this go for a bit, we're now seeing the church fire back in a way perhaps we've become accustomed to.
Yeah, it's clear that this is now an all-out war between Leah Remini and the Church of Scientology. Dan Harris and I actually were talking backstage about this, about the fact that you haven't seen language like this from the church against her up to this point. They'd been trying to be careful. They'd been using kid gloves. But now they're going after her. You heard that statement. This is now an all-out battle.
Now, the LAPD rather quickly confirmed that this was a closed case. What would they have done to have done that?
You have to take the report. Anytime someone comes in and files a missing report, they have to take the report. Then the question is establishing how viable is this? Is there actually a missing person there? And that's the first thing that they did here. And a lot of people were saying, well, what are they going to do to establish that she's missing? Could she send out an affidavit? They did what you'd expect them to do in any case, right? Put aside Scientology. They went and found her. Yeah. And they talked to her. And they've now determined, okay, she's not missing. This is unfounded. So they could have said, we're going to leave this open. We haven't made any determination. They came out and called this closed and said that this is unfounded.
And Dan, what about the people who are out there saying, this still doesn't sound kosher, this sounds suspicious. We haven't seen Shelly in public in a number of years.
Look, it's a fair question to ask. On the one hand, people are allowed to disappear, right? You're allowed to go underground for whatever reason. As long as you're not being kidnapped, as long as someone isn't pushing you, forcing you to do it, you're allowed to do that. The question is, what led her to do that? And that's what's leading to all the questions, is why would she have suddenly done that? And that's a separate question.
Certainly many more questions to answer here, Dan. Thank you for that.
And now, where we didn't have one witness that would come forward and testify for our case, now we have so many witnesses that we now have to choose which witnesses will be the best witnesses to come forward and speak on our behalf. And the reason that is happening is because people are speaking out. People are protesting. People are making the abuses known. Members of the organization and employees of the organization are seeing these protests. And it's actually written in Scientology policy that these attacks only occur when something is wrong within Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard actually wrote that if attacks are occurring, then something wrong is actually occurring within the organization. And so when you guys are attacking them and lawsuits are being filed and media are speaking about Scientology, the Scientologists themselves question what's happening and they start to leave, and then they join the ranks of the people that are speaking out against the wrongs that are happening within the organization. When I left and was run off the road, an anonymous person called the police and basically saved my life. And that's how I got to safety. So I can only hope that people that are hearing this today, and whoever hears this on the internet, I can only hope that they as well do the right thing, and hopefully we can sort this out. Thanks a lot.
The story of Leah Remini is pretty interesting right now. You can get all the breaking news about Scientology from The Underground Bunker, a blog by Tony Ortega, a former editor over at The Village Voice before the paper turned into The Little Nickel. Anyway, Leah Remini is the actress who played the wife on the show The King of Queens, and she gabs on the talk. Anyway, she went to Tom Cat's wedding and saw or was approached by David Miscavige and Tommy Davis. She asked Miscavige, "Where's Shelly?" in a tone 40 or maybe louder. Because, well, Shelly should be with Miscavige at such an event. Shelly Miscavige was quite a bigwig herself. Tommy Davis, as the bulldog he is, snarled, "You don't have the fucking rank to ask that question." This didn't sit right with her. Anyway, Shelly hasn't been seen in public since 2007, and Leah went and wrote a knowledge report on Miscavige. Well, this is what Scientologists are supposed to do when they see rules being broken, and Leah had the ovaries to report CB, the chairman of the board. You need to understand that CB is never questioned. Not only that, but he is essentially a violent sociopath who beats people and throws tantrums, a real baby. She could have been sent to the RPF, the Rehabilitation Project Force, which is a work camp inside the international headquarters in Hemet Valley. But he's afraid to do that with celebrities because they are listened to. Anyway, they forced her to take it back. That's after she had gone through this arduous process of the security check and the truth rundown, both of which she had to pay a lot for. They wanted her to confess that she had evil intentions toward David Miscavige that had caused her to, hallucinate what she had reported. They also grilled her on an e-meter, asking her probably if she ever discovered a planet in one of her past lives, something like that. They kept her at Flag in Clearwater, Florida for thought modification. No kidding. Thought modification. Well, this pissed her off, of course. Now, you have to know that she and her family have been dedicated Scientologists for many, many years. Her husband, mother, etc. So instead of going through the process of disconnecting from her as a suppressive person, which is like the worst you can be, they left with her. It isn't clear if they were all routed out properly, but I assume nobody had to blow, which means to leave without going through all the channels, to escape during the night while being pursued by trained staffers, something like that. Either way, they will still give you a freeloader bill for the courses you took. The fact that she is a pretty well-known celebrity probably changes all this stuff to be a little bit milder. So, Leah went and filed a missing person report on Shelly Miscavige to the LA police. The police found her, or had contact with her, and it is known by underground sources in Scientology that Shelly is at Lake Arrowhead in the mountains of California, cut off from the outside world with about 12 other Scientologists. She's probably transcribing Hubbard's endless tapes or something. Hubbard had something to say about absolutely everything, so 99% of what she's doing is garbage, and she's been doing it for 6 years. They may trot her out in public soon because of the media pressure. They'll take her out at the LA Celebrity Center Gala, which is coming up But Leah Remini and her family, they will be out of the church, and Leah is already talking, so stay tuned.
Mondo Diablo is brought to you by Hellbound Alleee. It can be downloaded at her blog at mondodiablo.wordpress.com. Twitter Mondo Diablo and praise God.